The Silent Hunters. In the vast expanse of space, terror moved in silence. The Nexari weren't like other conquerors. They didn't announce their presence with massive fleets or bombastic declarations of supremacy. They came in the dark, wrapped in ships that absorbed light itself, their very existence a whisper that drove entire civilizations mad with paranoia. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the UES Vigilant, staring at the colony of New Eden's primary settlement through narrowed eyes. Everything looked normal on the surface. The biodomes still gleamed under the binary star's light, atmospheric processors continued their steady work, and the orbital platforms maintained their positions. But no one had heard from the colony's 40,000 inhabitants in 3 weeks. "Anything from the surface scan?" she asked, not turning from the viewport. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera's fingers danced across his console. "Nothing obvious, Commander. Life signs are present, but scattered. Different from our last baseline. And there's something else." He hesitated, frowning at his readings. "The pattern of movement. It's not random, but it's not normal human behavior either." Chen had seen this before. 2 months ago, the mining outpost on Theta Proxima had gone silent in exactly the same way. When they finally breached the sealed facilities, they found the entire population had torn itself apart in fits of panic and paranoia. The few survivors they recovered babbled about shadows that whispered and darkness that watched. The brass had written it off as mass hysteria caused by isolation. Chen knew better. She'd seen the footage from the outpost's security systems, watched as something moved through the shadows, something that shouldn't exist. "Prep a drop team," she ordered. "Full spectrum sensors, psi shields at maximum. I want boots on the ground in 30 minutes. Commander," her XO, David Okonjo, stepped forward. After Theta Proxima, Command explicitly ordered no ground intervention without backup. Chen finally turned from the viewport, her expression hard. "And in the 72 hours it would take backup to arrive. How many more will we lose?" She gestured to the peaceful-looking colony below. "There are children down there, David." The command center fell silent. Everyone knew she was right, and everyone knew what they might find below. The Vigilance crew had been tracking these incidents for months, gathering data while the rest of humanity remained blissfully unaware of what lurked in the darkness between stars. 28 minutes later, Chen stood in the dropship bay, checking the seals on her tactical suit. Around her, 12 of her best security personnel did the same. Each wore the latest in protective gear, not just against conventional threats, but against the psychological warfare that had become the Nexari's hallmark. "Remember," she addressed her team, "whatever you see, whatever you hear, trust your instruments, trust your training, trust each other. The enemy wants us afraid. They want us paranoid. They want us turning on each other." She activated her helmet's HUD, watching as the psi shield indicators came online. "We're humanity's first line of defense. We don't have the luxury of fear." The drop was textbook perfect, their ship landing in the colony's main square without incident. The silence was immediate and oppressive. No wind stirred the carefully cultivated plants, no birds called from the artificial habitats, no humans went about their daily routines. Life signs strongest in the central administrative building. Rivera reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Multiple signatures clustered together. They moved as one unit, weapons ready, sensors sweeping constantly for the telltale energy signatures they'd learned to associate with Nexari presence. The administrative building's doors were sealed but not locked, never a good sign. Inside, the evidence of panic was immediate. Furniture overturned, walls marked with laser fire, blood stains both old and fresh marking the floors. But it was the writing that caught Chen's attention. Equations, star charts, and the same phrase repeated over and over in dozens of hands. "They're in our heads." The team found the survivors in the building's secure conference room, nearly 300 people crammed into a space designed for 50. They'd barricaded themselves in, using the room's natural, say, dampening properties as shelter against their invisible tormentors. "Commander," one of the colony's security officers recognized her rank, his voice hoarse. "They came 3 weeks ago. No ships, no warning. Just shadows that think, whispers that drive you mad. Half the colony killed each other in the first week. The rest." He gestured to the haunted faces around him. "We figured out they couldn't reach us as well in here. Something about the room's construction interferes with their abilities." Chen nodded, her mind already racing with implications. "You've given us valuable intel, officer. We're getting you all out of here." She opened a channel to the vigilant. "Okanjo, begin emergency evacuation procedures. And send everything we've gathered to Fleet Command. Priority 1. The Nexeri aren't just hitting random targets anymore. They're testing our defenses, learning our weaknesses." As her team coordinated the evacuation, Chen studied the equations scrawled on the walls. They weren't the ravings of madmen. They were attempts to understand the enemy. The colonists, even in their terror, had tried to fight back the only way they could, with human ingenuity and determination. One equation caught her eye, something about quantum entanglement and consciousness. If the colonists' theories were correct, the Nexeri weren't just using advanced technology. They were using the fundamental properties of space-time itself to wage their war of terror. But they'd made a crucial mistake. In trying to break humanity through fear, they'd given away their greatest secret. And if humans could understand their methods, they could fight back. "Commander," Rivera called out, his voice urgent. "Energy spike. They're here." Chen spun, rifle raised, as darkness seemed to pool in the corners of the room. The psi shields hummed, pushing back against an invisible pressure that threatened to turn their minds against them. But where the colonists had faced this terror alone and unprotected, Chen's team stood ready. "Hold the line," she ordered, as shadows began to take shape. "Humanity doesn't bow to fear. Not now. Not ever." The battle for New Eden was about to begin. And with it, humanity's real war against the terror in the stars would finally come into the light. Breaking point. The UES Vigilant emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, trailing debris and bearing the scars of battles fought across 3 star systems. Commander Chen hadn't slept in 48 hours, but sleep was a luxury humanity could no longer afford, not since the Nexeri had changed their tactics. "Status report," she demanded, studying the holographic display of Earth's defense grid. After the New Eden incident, she convinced Fleet Command of the threat. Now, 3 months later, every human settlement was protected by psi shields and quantum disruption fields. But it wasn't enough. Multiple quantum disturbances detected throughout the system, Rivera reported, his once pristine uniform now bearing hastily applied patches. "They're already here, Commander. But something's different. The patterns, they're not like anything we've seen before." Chen felt it too. A subtle pressure against her mental defenses, different from the Nexeri's usual terror tactics. "They're adapting," she muttered. "Send the New Eden data to Earth Defense Command. All of it. They need to know what they're dealing with." The Vigilant's quantum communications array, hastily retrofitted after they'd discovered how the Nexeri traveled, hummed to life. But before the transmission could complete, space itself seemed to ripple. "Multiple contacts," Okanjo shouted. "They're not hiding anymore." The Nexeri ships appeared like tears in reality, impossibly dark against the backdrop of space. But unlike their previous encounters, these vessels were massive, each one larger than Earth's biggest dreadnoughts. "They're not here to terrorize," Chen realized, her blood running cold. "This is an invasion." Earth's defense grid activated, thousands of satellites and stations bringing their weapons to bear. But the Nexeri had learned from their previous encounters. Their ships split apart, each fragment becoming a new whole, multiplying like a virus in zero gravity. "All hands, battle stations," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the impossible odds. "And get me a direct line to Admiral Santos. She needs to know what we learned at New Eden." As her crew scrambled to action, Chen reviewed everything they discovered about their enemy. The Nexari weren't just advanced. They were different. They existed partially in quantum space, using humanity's own fears as a weapon. But the colonists' equations had revealed something crucial. The Nexari couldn't fully manifest in normal space without consuming massive amounts of energy. "Commander," a young ensign called out, her voice trembling. "Earth Defense Command is reporting similar attacks across the system. Luna Base, Mars Colony, the Jupiter stations, all under assault." Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "Good. Good?" Okonjo questioned, looking at her like she'd lost her mind. "They're overextending themselves," she explained. "Every manifestation, every ship they create, it all costs them energy they can't easily replace. And they've just shown their hand." The Vigilance engines roared to life as Chen took direct control. "All ships in range. This is Commander Chen. The Nexari aren't invincible. They're desperate. They fear us because we can do something no other species they've encountered could. We can understand them." Her ship dove through the chaos of battle, its sensors gathering data with every passing second. The Nexari ships were impressive, but Chen could see the pattern now. Each manifestation was slightly weaker than the last, each attack less coordinated. "Launch quantum disruptors," she ordered. "Full spread. And broadcast these frequencies to every human ship in range." The disruptors, devices born from the desperate calculations of New Eden's colonists, tore through space. Where they hit, Nexari ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, their quantum structure collapsing back into the darkness from which they came. Multiple enemy contacts disappearing, Rivera reported, excitement creeping into his voice. "The disruption field is working. Other ships are reporting the same." But the Nexari had one last card to play. The remaining ships converged, forming a singular mass of impossible darkness. The pressure against their minds increased exponentially, driving even shielded crew members to their knees. Chen gripped her command chair, fighting against the wave of terror threatening to overwhelm her. "That's their mistake," she growled. "Everyone, full power to the quantum drive. We end this now." The Vigilance experimental drive spun up, creating its own distortion in spacetime. The principles were the same ones the Nexari used, but with a crucial difference. Humanity had learned to control it, to direct it with precision rather than raw power. "All ships clear our vector," Chen commanded. "We're going to give them a taste of their own medicine." The Vigilant accelerated directly toward the Nexari mass, its quantum drive creating a wake that tore at the fabric of spacetime. The enemy, committed to their final attack, couldn't withdraw in time. When the drives met, reality itself seemed to hiccup. The Nexari mass, caught in a quantum feedback loop of its own making, imploded. The psychic pressure vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. In the silence that followed, Chen allowed herself to breathe. "Damage report. Heavy casualties throughout the system," Okonjo reported. "But we held. Earth is safe. And more importantly," he gestured to the sensor readings, "we know how to fight them now." Chen nodded, finally allowing exhaustion to creep in. "Send everything we have to Fleet Command." The Nexari thought they could break us with fear. Instead, they taught us how to reach into their realm. And now, she smiled, thinking of the quantum drive calculations already being transmitted to every human shipyard. Now we can take the fight to them. The Battle of Seoul marked a turning point. Humanity had stood against the darkness and emerged stronger. The Nexari had sought to exploit human fear, only to learn a crucial lesson. There's nothing more dangerous than humans who have overcome their terror. As the Vigilant limped toward Earth for repairs, Chen began drafting her report. The real war was just beginning, but for the first time, humanity had hope. They had done what no other species had managed. They had looked into the darkness and found a way to fight back. The Nexari's greatest weapon had become their greatest weakness. They had never understood that humans don't just feel fear. They study it, understand it, and ultimately master it. The human factor. The shipyards above Mars buzzed with activity as humanity prepared for war. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, the revelation of humanity's resistance to Nexari tactics had drawn countless alien refugees seeking protection. Among them came knowledge, centuries of data about an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy from the shadows. Dr. Maya Patel stood in her laboratory aboard the research station Archimedes, surrounded by holograms showing Nexari attack patterns across millennia. Beside her, Kazoth, a refugee scientist from the Centauri Collective, waved his 4 arms in agitation. "You don't understand," he chittered, compound eyes reflecting the data streams. "The Nexari cannot be fought conventionally. 67 species tried. 67 species fell." Maya smiled, adjusting her prototype quantum resonance scanner. "That's because they tried to fight the Nexari on their terms. We're doing something different." She gestured to the device. "We're bringing them into our reality." The laboratory door slid open as Commander Chen entered, now wearing the insignia of Fleet Admiral. The promotion had come after her insights at Sol led to humanity's first major victory. "Tell me you have good news, Doctor." "Better than good," Maya replied. "Remember how the Nexari use quantum fields to manifest their ships? We've found a way to stabilize those manifestations. Once they're forced fully into our spacetime," she grinned, "they can't simply disappear anymore." Kazoth's antennae twitched in disbelief. "Impossible. The energy requirements alone are substantial," Maya agreed. "But we're not trying to control all of spacetime like they do. We're creating localized fields, using their own quantum signatures against them." She activated a demonstration, and a small bubble of distorted space appeared above her workbench. Once they're trapped in normal space, they're just as vulnerable as anyone else. Chen studied the bubble intently. "How soon can we weaponize this?" "The prototypes are ready for testing. We've already equipped the Vigilance sister ship, the UES Prometheus, with the first full-scale version." "The Nexari will adapt," Kazoth warned. "They always adapt." "That's counting on it," Chen replied. "Dr. Patel's device isn't just a weapon. It's a key. Once we force them into normal space, we can finally learn what they really are." The conversation was interrupted by a station-wide alert. Admiral Santos's voice filled the chamber. "All personnel, battle stations. Nexari signatures detected in the Epsilon Eridani system. They're attacking the refugee fleet." Chen was already moving. "Doctor, is the Prometheus ready?" Maya nodded, grabbing her tablet. "I'm coming with you. The device might need adjustments in the field." "It's too dangerous," Kazoth began. "That's what makes it human." Chen cut him off with a grim smile. "We run toward danger, especially when others need help." Hours later, the Prometheus dropped out of hyperspace into chaos. The refugee fleet, hundreds of ships carrying survivors from dozens of species, was scattered across the system. Nexari vessels darted between them, their usual terror tactics amplified by the fear already present in their traumatized targets. "Multiple quantum signatures," Maya reported from her hastily assembled station on the bridge. "They're trying to manifest fully, perfect conditions for the trap." Chen took command naturally, coordinating with the other human ships that had responded to the distress call. "All vessels, form a perimeter around the refugee fleet. Drive the Nexari toward these coordinates." She transmitted the position where Maya's calculations showed the quantum field would be strongest. The battle that followed would later be called the turning point by the galaxy's historians. Human ships, now equipped with basic quantum shields based on Maya's research, herded the Nexari vessels like shepherds guiding sheep. Each time the enemy tried to slip away into quantum space, carefully positioned disruptors forced them back. "Field generator at full power," Maya announced. "Ready on your mark." Chen watched as the trap closed. Now, the quantum bubble expanded from the Prometheus, engulfing a cluster of Nexari ships. For the first time in recorded history, the mysterious terror of the galaxy was forced fully into normal space. What emerged shocked everyone on the bridge. The Nexeri ships, stripped of their quantum manipulation abilities, were revealed as crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light. Within them, beings of pure energy struggled to maintain coherence. By the first stars, Kizoth whispered, They're afraid. Maya's sensors went wild. They're not just energy beings, they're a composite consciousness. Every ship, every attack, it's all part of a single entity. They didn't terrorize the galaxy because they were cruel. They did it because fear was the only emotion they could understand. Chen's expression hardened. Open a channel to the nearest Nexeri vessel. For the first time in history, the Nexeri responded with something other than psychic assault. The communication was primitive, more emotion than language, but the message was clear. Confusion, fear, and beneath it all, a desperate loneliness. They never understood us, Maya realized, reading the data streaming across her screen. They exist partly in quantum space, experiencing time non-linearly. Every moment of fear they caused echoed back to them, creating a feedback loop that drove them to cause more fear. They couldn't comprehend linear beings who could feel something different. Chen stepped forward. Then let's teach them. Over the next several hours, as the refugee fleet regrouped and more human ships arrived, something unprecedented occurred. Through Maya's device, humans established the first real communication with the Nexeri. They learned that the entity had been alone in its quantum realm for eons, reaching out the only way it knew how. We're not going to destroy them, Chen announced to her bewildered crew. We're going to help them understand. That's what humans do. We don't just overcome our fears, we help others overcome theirs too. The Epsilon Eridani encounter, as it came to be known, marked the beginning of a new era. Humanity hadn't just found a way to fight the Nexeri, they'd found a way to reach them. The terror of the galaxy wasn't defeated by weapons, but by something uniquely human: the ability to understand, adapt, and extend compassion even to those who had caused harm. As Maya worked to refine her quantum communication device, she realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their resistance to fear, it was their capacity to move beyond it. Darkness before dawn. 6 months after the Epsilon Eridani encounter, Earth's quantum communications network hummed with activity. The combined knowledge of dozens of alien species, merged with human ingenuity, had created something unprecedented. A bridge between normal space and the quantum realm where the Nexeri naturally existed. Captain James Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Peacekeeper, the first ship designed specifically for quantum space navigation. Beside him, a Nexeri consciousness manifested as a shimmering pattern of light, their new liaison, whom the crew had nicknamed Aurora. More fragments detected. Aurora communicated through the quantum interface Dr. Patel had refined, the ones you call Raiders. They reject unity, reject understanding. They feed on fear. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Not all of the Nexeri had embraced change. A significant portion had splintered away, viewing any connection with linear beings as corruption. These raiders continued their campaign of terror, now more violent than ever. Multiple distress calls from the Orion Arm, his communications officer reported. The raiders are hitting civilian targets. They're not just using fear anymore. They're destroying everything they touch. They're desperate. Aurora's thoughts rippled through the interface. They believe that if they cause enough fear, enough chaos, they can force all Nexeri to return to the old ways. Rodriguez activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, battle stations. Maya, is the new system ready? Dr. Patel's voice came from engineering, where she'd installed her latest creation. The quantum bridge is stable. If your theory works, we should be able to match their quantum state while maintaining our physical form. Should, Rodriguez mused. Good enough for me. All hands, prepare for quantum shift. The Peacekeeper shuddered as Maya's device activated. The familiar stars outside the viewports blurred, replaced by patterns of probability and potential. They had entered the quantum realm, the Nexeri's natural domain. while remaining physically present in normal space. Multiple contacts, his sensor officer called out. Raiders approaching from all possible vectors. In quantum space, conventional directions meant nothing. The raiders existed simultaneously in multiple states, their very presence forcing probability to collapse into their desired outcome, terror and destruction. But humanity had learned. The Peacekeeper's crew, trained in quantum space navigation, understood that reality here was shaped by will and perception. The raiders tried to project fear, but each crew member focused on a single shared purpose: protection. Now they understand. Aurora's thoughts carried pride. Quantum space reflects consciousness. United purpose creates stronger reality. Rodriguez watched as reality itself seemed to crystallize around his ship's determination. Where the raiders tried to manifest destruction, the Peacekeeper's crew projected an unshakable shield of human resolve. Launch quantum anchors, he ordered. The devices, inspired by Maya's original trap, but refined through collaboration with friendly Nexeri, shot out into probability space. Where they hit, reality collapsed into a single state, forcing the raiders to exist in one place, one time. The battle that followed defied conventional physics. The raiders, trapped between states, fought with the desperate fury of cornered animals. But the Peacekeeper's crew, their minds linked through Aurora's guidance, maintained their unity of purpose. We're not here to destroy you. Rodriguez broadcasted on all quantum frequencies. We're here to show you another way. The raiders responded with a massive quantum surge, trying to unmake the very space around the Peacekeeper. But where fear had once given them power, they now faced something stronger: human hope, multiplied and amplified by unwavering determination. Maya's voice cut through the chaos. Quantum bridge holding steady. Their attack is actually making our field stronger. They're feeding energy into the very thing they're trying to destroy. Rodriguez smiled. That's the thing about humanity. The harder you push us, the stronger we become. Aurora. Now, the Nexeri liaison extended their consciousness through the quantum bridge, touching the minds of the raiders. Through their connection, they shared not just thoughts but experience, the revelation of cooperation, the strength found in understanding, the peace that comes from ending isolation. Some raiders fled deeper into quantum space. Others, feeling the truth in Aurora's sharing, began to waver. A few, to everyone's surprise, surrendered completely, their quantum signatures synchronizing with the Peacekeeper's bridge frequency. As the battle ended, Rodriguez looked at the sensor displays showing normal space. The civilian targets were safe. The raiders' attack had failed. But more importantly, they'd proven that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their determination. It was their ability to offer a better way. Signal from Earth Command, his communications officer announced. Admiral Chen is requesting our combat data. Apparently, similar attacks were repelled in 3 other sectors. They're calling it the beginning of the end. The end of fear, Aurora communicated. The start of understanding. Rodriguez watched as his crew helped guide the surrendered raiders through the quantum bridge protocol. Each former enemy represented not just a victory, but a transformation. Humanity had taken the terror that had plagued the galaxy and turned it into an opportunity for growth. Send word to command, he ordered. The quantum bridge strategy works. Recommend immediate implementation across all defense fleets. He paused, looking at the shimmering form of Aurora. And tell them we're going to need more liaison officers. Something tells me we're about to have a lot of new allies. The Peacekeeper's mission marked a crucial phase in the conflict. Humanity had proven that victory didn't always require destruction. Sometimes, the greatest battles were won not through force, but through the courage to offer understanding to those who had never known anything but fear. Like years ahead, 1 year after the first successful quantum bridge deployment, the galaxy had transformed. The grand chamber of the newly constructed Unity Station hung in space at the intersection of quantum and normal realms, a testament to what was possible when fear gave way to understanding. Admiral Sarah Chen, now Supreme Commander of the United Defense Force, stood before the assembled representatives of over 300 species. Beside her, a chorus of Nexari consciousnesses shimmered in patterns of light, their presence no longer inspiring terror but wonder. A year ago, we faced extinction, Chen began, her voice carrying across the chamber. Not just humanity, not just the Nexari, but all of us. Fear threatened to tear reality itself apart. But today, we stand at the dawn of something unprecedented. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the progress. Former Raider strongholds transformed into quantum research centers, joint human Nexari patrols protecting trade routes, and the first generation of ships capable of navigating both realms of existence. Dr. Maya Patel, now Director of Quantum Integration Sciences, stepped forward. The device on her wrist pulsed softly, allowing her to perceive quantum space as easily as normal reality. The quantum bridges have stabilized across all major sectors. The raiders who still resist find themselves increasingly isolated, their power diminishing as understanding grows. Unity brings strength. The Nexari chorus resonated through the quantum interface. Humans showed us what we have forgotten. That existence is not binary, that consciousness can evolve, that fear can be transformed into growth. From his position aboard the Peacekeeper, now patrolling the quantum boundaries of known space, Captain Rodriguez watched the proceedings through quantum-enhanced communications. His ship's crew, once exclusively human, now included former raiders who had chosen a different path. Contact, his sensor officer reported. Quantum signature detected at the edge of mapped space. It's different from anything we've seen before. Rodriguez straightened in his command chair. New species. More than that, Aurora, their Nexari liaison, manifested beside him. New form of existence entirely. They were waiting, watching to see if this realm could overcome its fear. Back in the Unity Chamber, the proceedings were interrupted as the discovery was relayed. Chen watched as the quantum sensors recorded something approaching, not with fear or aggression, but with curiosity and hope. We are the architects. A new consciousness touched their minds, its presence vast yet gentle. We have watched for eons, waiting for this moment, when beings of matter and beings of quantum probability could not just coexist, but cooperate. You have proven that evolution is possible, that understanding can triumph over fear. The chamber erupted in excited discussion as the architects shared their knowledge. Glimpses of technologies and sciences that merged the best of both realms of existence. They had been the original shapers of reality, stepping back only when younger species began to emerge, waiting for them to overcome their fears and limitations. Humanity's greatest strength, Chen reflected, watching as human scientists already began collaborating with their Nexari and architect counterparts, wasn't our resilience or our technology. It was our ability to imagine something better, even in our darkest moments. Dr. Patel's quantum sensors recorded the historic moment as probability clouds shifted and reformed. The architect's presence had catalyzed something remarkable, the beginning of a true synthesis between quantum and physical existence. The raiders were right about one thing, she noted, studying the data. Reality is changing, but not through fear, through cooperation, through understanding, through the simple human belief that tomorrow can be better than today. Aboard the Peacekeeper, Rodriguez received new orders to lead an expedition into previously unmapped quantum space, accompanied by their new allies. The mission was no longer about defense or survival. It was about exploration, about pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Curious, Aurora observed as they prepared for departure. In all our existence as Nexari, we never imagined that our salvation would come from beings who couldn't naturally perceive our realm. Yet humans looked into the darkness between worlds and saw not terror, but possibility. As the Unity Station became a beacon for a new age of exploration and discovery, Chen stood at its heart, remembering the fear that had once gripped her crew aboard the Vigilant. That fear had transformed into understanding, that understanding into cooperation, and that cooperation into something greater than any single species could have achieved alone. The galaxy would never be the same. The terror that had ruled for so long had been replaced by an unprecedented alliance of mind and matter, of quantum and physical, of past and future. Humanity had done more than survive. They had shown the galaxy how to thrive. We started this journey trying to save ourselves. Chen addressed the chamber one final time. We ended up saving each other. And now, she gestured to the quantum displays showing the vast, unexplored reaches of space-time. Now we write the next chapter together. The assembled representatives, physical and quantum alike, shared a moment of perfect understanding. The age of fear was over. The age of unity had begun, and it had all started because humans, faced with an impossible enemy, had chosen to understand rather than destroy. Light years ahead lay infinite possibilities, waiting to be explored by those who had learned that the greatest victories come not from conquering our fears, but from transforming them into bridges to a better future.